Welcome to the Revere Veterans and Community Show. In conjunction with the Revere Veterans Service under Nick Bua and the Revere Allied Veterans Council under yours truly, Morris Morris. And today we have a real special guest. He's the account manager of the American Red Cross in charge of the Northern Massachusetts. So welcome, Tom Heenan. It's a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thanks for having me, Morris.
Okay, before we start, Tom, tell us a little about yourself.
I am originally from Medford, Massachusetts. I, grew up there until I was in my 20s, and I graduated from the Salem State School of Business in 2006, and I have been working for the American Red Cross now for the past six years.
Good, because when I first met you, it was over at the American Legion.
Yes.
And I was doing volunteer work.
You were, and a great volunteer you were.
Thank you. But would you tell the people out there, Tom, if they want to become volunteers to help the Red Cross, how they could go ahead and do it?
Yep, anybody who wants to donate blood at one of our blood drives, go to redcrossblood.org, punch in the Revere zip code, and you should get a list of drives.
Right, those are people that volunteer to give blood, and they have to come in, they have to have their ID, I believe, Massachusetts?
Yes, the only thing that we really require in order to donate is a valid ID that contains a date of birth and a photo ID. That could be a passport, that could be a driver's license, or what have you.
And when the last time they gave blood, how often a gap is there between giving blood between them?
You can get, for a whole blood donation, is every 56 days you can donate, so roughly once every 2 months. But for a double reds donation, I'll tell you about that later, is 114 days.
Right. Now, we were talking about people who volunteer to give blood, but what about people who want to volunteer that can't give blood, like myself, but who do work for the Red Cross? How would they go about it?
For anybody who would be deferred from donating, like yourself, Morris, you can just get in touch with me, and you can email me, in fact, at thomas.heenan@redcross.org, and, maybe we can get together and see if we could put you to work at one of our drives, just minding the canteen or operating the registration table.
Good. Can you give us just I know you do a lot of work in Revere because I've been with the Moose and the Legion. Can you give us a list of the organizations that have the blood drive in Revere without the dates right now?
Absolutely. We run over at the Revere Moose on Main Street, and they usually alternate every 2 months with the American Legion, which is right up the street from there.
That's where I do mine.
Yep, but we also we have a really great blood drive that we just started at the Revere High School.
Oh.
They used to run a long time ago, but for whatever reason they hadn't run for 8 years. So when I came into the territory, that was one of the drives that I wanted to establish within the community. So
that's true.
We've done really well over there, and we got another one coming up over at the Rumney Marsh Academy. Right on 1A.
And what about Immaculate Conception, too?
Immaculate Conception, we ran there last summer, and I'm currently trying to put one together with my sponsor over there as well.
Oh, that's very good. Very good. Now, I've got to ask you, well, how did you first really get started? I mean, you came out of college. What made you go with the American Red Cross?
Well, at the time, I was doing construction for my father, working for a company called Cummings Properties, and I just kind of wanted to get out and make a name for myself. My degree is in business marketing, and I wanted to kind of find something that was in my field. So I got a hold of the Red Cross through a temping agency. They asked me if I wanted to work with the American Red Cross, and I told them who wouldn't. And from there, I started as a temp, and I kind of worked my way up to where I am now, and that's the account manager of the North Shore Territory.
Right. I would like you to explain to the people out there who come to give blood who can and cannot give blood. For example, I learned something from you that you have to be in remission for 5 years if you have cancer. What are the other sicknesses that people have to wait before they can? What about a person that may have leukemia?
Leukemia is kind of in the same ballpark as cancer. You would have to be in remission for a certain amount of time. And I believe it's 5 years, but to be sure, I would definitely go to redcrossblood.org. That has everything that you need to know about who can donate. I can tell you right now that there are 3 main things that would defer a person from donating blood. First would be travel. I know that there's a lot of places overseas that are a big deferral because of malaria, because of mad cow. If you had lived in any of those places, let's say the UK or India for a total amount of time, then you might be deferred from donating blood for a certain amount of time.
Okay, would you take me through the steps like when a donor comes in, like myself?
Mm-hmm.
I sign in, they check the computer, and I've given blood, we'll say 56 days, let's say 2.5 months ago. What are the steps that they do there? Now I sign in, what happens next? Just take us right through.
Sure. When a person shows up to a blood drive, first thing they want to do is check in with the person who's taking care of the registration desk. From there, they're going to give them a booklet of deferral qualification materials, and you're going to have to read over that. It's pretty easy. It's basically like an 8-page booklet that you'd have to read over, basically containing all the countries that a person would be deferred from if they lived there. Basically stuff like tattoos.
Tattoos?
Yeah, and any type of medication that you might be on, such as like heart disease or diabetes. So if you read through the material and everything looks good, your number gets called and they take you into a health history booth. And basically what that is, it's a brief mini physical. They'll take your iron, they'll take your blood pressure, and they'll ask you a series of further questions that would further qualify you for donating blood. And once you get past that, it would be the donation. That takes between 5 and 10 minutes, depending upon the person and how fast you go. And then, of course, we give you juice and cookies at the canteen afterwards. We send you on your way.
Right. Now, let me ask you this question. It makes no difference whether you're African-American, Caucasian, or Indian or whatever. All blood, if it's a type O, would be the same from all the people. Is that correct?
Are you talking about type O?
I just use that as an example. Type O plus, type O minus, whatever types they have.
Yeah, as long as you're in good health and you meet our criteria. Like I said, if you haven't traveled to any places that are on our list, or if you haven't had any tattoos recently, or if you're not on any medications that you'd be deferred for.
Oh, that's okay. Now, my next question is to you. You got the locations of the organizations, right? Mm-hmm. Where do you plan to go after you do all this? I mean, in the city of Revere, some of the other towns, how are they about giving blood?
Oh, they're excellent, actually. Revere is definitely one of my favorite places to run, but along with that, we run in Winthrop, we do Lynn, we do Swampscott, Salem, which is where I live now, and my territory pretty much runs along the shore all the way up through Gloucester, and it ends right around the Ipswich area.
So that's very good. Now I got another question for
Sure.
you. Okay. Outside, after the people give the blood,
mm-hmm.
What happens to the blood after the people leave? What do you do with the blood? In other words?
Well, the blood gets sent down to our headquarters in Dedham, where it is separated into its components. The different components are red cells, white cells, plasma, and platelets.
Oh, each one is different?
And they're all used for different purposes. And once it gets back to the lab, it's all post-screened for any diseases or anything that might be picked up after the fact. Because a lot of times some people, they'll donate blood, but they might not know that they have a certain disease. So it all needs to be post-screened afterwards before it gets shipped out to the hospitals.
So in other words, all blood, different blood types, the cells like the white cells, the red cells are all
Yes,
different.
they all have different purposes.
So you must have about 50 to 100 containers sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's pretty interesting if you go down there. It's interesting to they give you a tour of the lab, and it's kind of fun to see all the little bags separated, and it almost kind of looks like the frozen food section in the grocery store.
Okay, now the blood's all separated, it's all in containers, and it gets shipped out.
Yes.
To where?
Sent out to all the different hospitals in Massachusetts and actually in the region.
And what about the overseas for the veterans?
Overseas for veterans, if
on the
if
battlefield
needed.
too?
Yep, absolutely.
So, do you ever get any blood? Well, no, not from overseas, but I mean, do you ever get any volunteers from overseas that come in Revere that would donate their blood?
Sometimes, yes, we do. Actually, we do get a lot of veterans that come in looking to donate.
Very good, very good. Now, the thing I was going to ask you again, if I may. You come here by the van, with the van. And you take the blood out by the van, and the blood is usually put into ice packs.
Yep.
Could you explain us?
Yeah, the blood usually, once we collect it at our blood drives, it gets packaged up and it's put in a cooler. And usually halfway through the drive, we have somebody come out from our distribution department, pick up what we have, and physically drive it down to the lab in Dedham. And then afterwards, whatever we collect after the pickup, again, it gets packaged up into our coolers and sent back down to Dedham. Right,
and let me ask you a question. It has to be in a cooler, and what's usually the temperature that it's kept at, roughly?
Roughly 50 degrees.
Okay.
45 to 50 degrees. Right, it's got to be nice and cool.
It has to be cool.
Yeah.
But if it should get higher up, let's say into the 70, that blood is useless then?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what the exact temperature is for it to go bad.
But once it gets up in a higher limit, it becomes useless? I mean, it's got to be kept cool?
It's got to be kept cool, and blood definitely has an expiration date. The different components have different.
And what's usually an expiration, roughly? I'm going to get you that.
I honestly, I don't know. I think it's somewhere around 50 days.
Oh.
Yeah.
So as soon as it comes out, it's got to be cool, then put into different containers?
I know that red cells are good roughly around 50 days, but platelets actually have to be shipped out a little quicker because they expire within 2 weeks.
You just gave me another good question. Would you explain to me, as a layman, what the different red cells are used for? The white cells, the red cells?
Yep. Well, red cells is what fights off the diseases.
Oh, that's like your immune system?
Yep, that's what fights off the diseases in your blood. Platelets are basically, when you have a wound or a cut, the platelets are like the little blood clots that stop you from bleeding. That's what helps to form a scab. Oh. And the white cells, I believe.
That's what I want. Yeah, what about the white cells?
The white cells, I believe, are what carries oxygen to the red cells to help them fight off the disease.
Very good. I believe you have some dates coming up here in the city of Revere.
Yes, I do. Look for us on the website, again, redcrossblood.org, and, definitely come on out and save somebody's life.
Okay. Tom, I want to say it was an honor and a pleasure to have you come down here.
It was an honor to be here.
And explain about the blood drive.
Oh, my pleasure.
God bless you.
Thank you so much.
For the work you do. And you really do good work because you save lives, and that is really good.
Thank you so much.
And God bless our troops. God bless the city of Revere, the people, the United States of America. Until the next time, thank you for listening. And Tom, thank you for coming.
Thanks, Maury.
Okay. Thank you.